Welcome back. So if you've been tracking the story of European integration, you know the post-World War II landscape. Lots of international bodies popping up like the UN, NATO, focused on, well, keeping the peace.
Right, traditional cooperation. But what started happening in Europe, particularly from 1957 onwards, was something fundamentally different.
Yeah, it wasn't just about countries agreeing not to fight. It felt like they were trying to build something completely new, from the ground up almost.
That's the key point. We're shifting from diplomacy as usual into this realm of really deep functional integration. And our sources really emphasize that this whole idea was driven by the functionalist approach. Robert Schuman was a big proponent of this.
Ah, functionalism. And that's so important for understanding the how and the why, isn't it? BP says you can't just leap into, say, United States of Europe overnight.
Exactly. Schumann's view was, look, integration has to be gradual. You achieve it step after step. You build concrete things together, economic things first, that create this sort of unavoidable connection, de facto solidarity, as the sources put it.
Right. You make the economies rely on each other before you aim for the big political goals.
Precisely. And the coal and steel community, the ECSC, that was like the test case, the appetizer. It showed, yes, this can work for specific sectors.
Okay, so today we're moving on to the main event, really, the big step after the ECSC.
That's it. We're focusing today on the creation of the European Economic Community, the EEC, back in 1957. And then, crucially, the administrative tidy-up 10 years later with the merger treaty of 1967.
So our goal in this deep dive is really to unpack that, understand the thinking behind it, how it was set up legally, and how they made it actually work administratively. We'll structure it to make it super clear, especially those key terms like the four freedoms, institutional merger. We want those to stick.
Okay, let's jump into part one then, the birth of the common market. This all kicks off with the Treaty of Rome in 1957.
Correct. Signed in Rome. And it involved the same six founding countries: France, West Germany, Italy, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, the ones who'd already, shown they were serious with the ECSC. But this EEC treaty was a massive jump from the ECSC, wasn't it? ECSC was just coal and steel.
A huge leap. Article 2 of the EEC Treaty lays out the mission: promote harmonious development of economic activities, continuous and balanced expansion, and build closer relations between the member states. And the main tool for doing all that, establishing a common market.
That phrase, common market, it's everything, isn't it? It really signals economic integration. We're not just talking about a free trade area here.
No, much, much more. It's about legally weaving the economies together. And the treaty's preamble is quite revealing about the long game. It talks about laying the foundations of an ever closer union among the peoples of Europe.
So it wasn't just about making trade easier in the short term.
Definitely not. It was seen as a permanent path towards unity, using economics as the engine.
Right. So for you listening, try thinking about it like this. The goal wasn't just, let's sell more stuff to each other. It was more like, let's build our economies together so tightly that falling out becomes practically impossible. That's the functionalist idea in action.
Now let's talk about the powers, the competences. This is where the EEC really differed from the ECSC and Euratom, the Atomic Energy Community, which was also set up in 57.
Okay, how so?
Well, ECSC and Euratom had narrow, what we call sectorial scopes. Coal and steel for one, atomic energy for the other. Very specific. The EEC, however, was given a broad and horizontal scope.
Horizontal meaning. It covered everything, not just specific industries.
Pretty much. It had general competences across the economy. You see, the founders realized you can't build a true common market by just focusing on a couple of sectors. A real common market affects everything.
Okay, that makes sense. So what powers did it actually have then, this EEC?
Its main job was to create a competitive marketplace. And the core legal tools for that were the economic fundamental freedoms and a common competition policy. Plus, it had related policies, things like agriculture, transport, trade policy, things needed to make the market work smoothly.
Okay, those four freedoms. That sounds like something we really need to nail down. It's central to the whole common market idea, right?
Yeah, absolutely central. If you're trying to get your head around the common market, these are the pillars.
So let's try a quick visual. Imagine those six countries basically agreeing to tear down all the economic walls between them. No more customs officers at the borders, no more fiddly paperwork stopping business. What four things absolutely have to be able to move freely for that to work?
Okay, so first, goods. Products need to cross borders without tariffs or quotas. Second, services. A French architect should be able to offer services in Germany, for example.
Right. Goods, services. What else?
Third, people. Citizens should be able to move to another member country to work or live. And fourth, capital. Money investments should be able to flow freely to where they're needed or can get the best return.
Goods, services, people, and capital. Got it. That's the bedrock. Removing those national barriers.
Exactly. That legal commitment is what makes it a common market, not just separate markets trading with each other.
Okay, but creating this huge new community alongside the ECSC and Euratom, that must have caused some institutional headaches.
Oh, definitely. By 1958, you effectively had 3 separate European communities running side by side, legally distinct. And each one initially had its own executive body called the Commission in the EEC and Euratom, but the high authority in the ECSC. Each had its own council of ministers.
Wow, okay. So 3 bosses, 3 ministerial councils. Did they share anything?
Well, yes. Thankfully, they did set up a single court of justice to handle legal disputes for all 3, and a single parliamentary assembly, though its powers were very limited back then.
But the day-to-day running, the executive decisions, the negotiations between governments and the councils, that was all separate.
All separate. 3 commissions, 3 councils, each operating under slightly different rules based on their founding treaties. You can imagine the potential for, well, duplication, confusion, maybe even competition between them. It wasn't exactly streamlined.
And that lack of streamlining that. Well, potential chaos, really. That leads us straight into part 2. The Merger Treaty of 1967.
Precisely. You had the situation, 3 quite powerful communities, especially the new EEC, but managed by separate sets of institutions. 3 executives, 3 councils, 3 budgets. It was becoming inefficient.
Just getting bogged down in bureaucracy.
Essentially, yes. The political vision was there, especially with the EEC gaining momentum, but the management structure was cumbersome. So the merger treaty was really about practicality. It was an efficiency drive.
The solution being the institutional merger. What did that actually involve? What changed day to day?
It did exactly what the name suggests. It merged the institutions. Specifically, it took the separate councils of the ECSC, EEC, and Euratom and combined them into a single council. And it did the same for the executives and the ECSC's high authority, and the 2 commissions were merged into a single European Commission.
Okay, so 1 council, 1 commission overseeing all 3 communities. Did they merge the budgets too?
Yes, that was part of it. A single budget covering the administrative costs and policies of all 3. Much simpler to manage.
Right. That makes a lot more sense. So, using your earlier analogy, the 3 trains, ECSC, Euratom, EEC, are still running on their own legal tracks, their own treaties.
Exactly.
But now they share 1 central control room, 1 group of drivers in the commission, and 1 group of, I don't know, signal controllers in the council.
That's a great way to put it, shared management. But, and this is the really crucial point, the one you absolutely need to remember, while they merged the management, they did not merge the communities themselves or their underlying legal powers.
Ah, okay. So why not? If you're merging the management, why not just go the whole hog and create 1 single European community with 1 treaty right then in 1967?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It really gets to the heart of the integration process. The merger treaty was an administrative fix. It was about making things run better. Merging the actual competences, the legal powers laid out in the 3 different treaties, that would have been a massive political undertaking.
You mean rewriting everything, trying to combine the very specific rules for coal and steel from the ECSC with the really broad economic rules of the EEC.
Exactly. That would have meant renegotiating everything. The member states were ready for administrative streamlining, for efficiency. They weren't quite ready politically to dissolve the original ECSC treaty, for instance, which had its own history and specific focus.
So the new single commission still had to operate under 3 different sets of rules, depending on the issue.
Precisely. If it was dealing with, say, agricultural policy, it used the powers given to it by the EEC treaty. If it was dealing with nuclear research safety, it used the Euratom treaty powers. If it was, I don't know, a coal subsidy issue, it had to look at the ECSC treaty.
Okay, so the institutions became unified, but the powers they wielded remained legally distinct, tied to whichever of the original 3 communities they were acting for at that moment.
That's the critical distinction. Unified management, separate legal bases, separate competences.
Right. Let's pause on that for anyone revising. Repeat this. The merger treaty unified the councils and commissions, but their competences remained separate. The powers depended on the original treaty.
Nail that down, and you've grasped the core of the 1967 merger.
Okay, so let's pull this all together. We've seen the journey. First, the Treaty of Rome in 57 creates the big economic framework, the EEC, the common market. the four freedoms.
Mm.
That's the huge functional step.
That's the substance, the what, and then the merger treaty in 67 provides the essential institutional structure, the how. Unified management, one council, one commission to make that common market actually function efficiently and avoid getting tangled up in its own administration.
It really shows that path Schuman talked about, doesn't it? Not grand declarations, but concrete legal and administrative steps building towards that ever closer union, moving beyond just focusing on one or two sectors.
Absolutely. These two treaties together really laid the groundwork, showing a serious commitment to building a deeply interconnected Europe.
And perhaps a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. This merger treaty solved one problem, administrative duplication. But by keeping the three treaties legally separate, it cemented that slightly complex structure of having distinct legal pillars, as they later became known. Why do you think the states insisted on keeping that legal separation, even while unifying the management? What does that tell us about the balance between supranational ambition and national caution back then? It's a tension that arguably still shapes Europe today.